Alright, so I'm trying to platinum every single Rockstar game that is on the PS5, and here's all of the ones I've completed so far. But if I can't finish the rest before the channel hits 900,000 subscribers, then I have to platinum Fortnite as my punishment. One of the hardest platinums ever. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Anyways, today I chose to platinum Max Payne, which is the very first game in the Max Payne series, and also the only one that is available to play on the PS5, which is very weird considering it came out way back in 2001 on the PlayStation 2. I was barely just a DNA strand in my father's nuts at that time, so it's safe to say that this game is by far the oldest I have ever played and 100% beat on the channel. But regardless of that, Max Payne only has 11 trophies inside of it. However, it is rated at a 8 out of 10 difficulty because of the trophy requirements for this game being near impossible to complete unless you're insanely good at the game or use cheat codes. So yeah, let's begin. Stage 1 or step 1 today is just beat the game's tutorial, which has a secret trophy also inside of it as you play it. The Max Payne controls are also taught during this stage, seeing as it is quite literally a tutorial, and my opinions on the movement are not great. I actually think they are inversed naturally, which makes me come to the conclusion that the studio who made this, being Remedy Entertainment, must have been on drugs coding this game. That's the only explanation. Still better than the OG Resident Evil game controls though, but that's another story we won't jump into today.
What did he say?
However, to get this first trophy in the tutorial, all you have to do was parkour up some boxes and this railing to enter a quote-unquote secret room. Upon breaking through the window like Max Payne does often in this game, you get the first trophy of the day that easily. So now let's move on to stage 2, which is the real first step in platinuming this game. Also, just so you guys know, you can cheese all of the trophies in this game with cheats and do this entire game's trophy list in like about an hour. But for the sake of this video, I did do full playthroughs for each difficulty level because I don't want to bore you all any more than I already am with a game that is 24 years old. Anyways, this stage is all about the difficulty rating of Fugitive, which is the normal one and the only option we're first starting off. The game opens up with some backdrop in the future showing Max Payne atop a building after killing a ton of people and being wanted by the police as a hot target. It then swaps to the main lore of this game's story, being that Max Payne's entire family, including his wife and baby, got taken out by some evil people. And we walk in on it happening with some beautiful PS2 sound effects.
Michelle!
Wow, that sounds exactly like the voices in my head deciding what to do with my life on a daily basis. I might have a mental breakdown. Anyways, you then walk through a few doors with enemies behind each of them. All identical, by the way, which is neat. Don't we just love a uniform team to spice up life? Ending off finally with the last room and seeing Max Payne's gorgeous wife, who is now dead. Rest in peace. Bro's about to hop on Hinge like Mark Rober and get paid off by tech companies. Crazy villain arc. So that's the prologue finished, and the game moves on to chapter 1, which surrounds the main story, at least for the first few chapters, being about Max trying to meet up with an informant named Alex. And just his luck, they would end up running into a giant bank robbery operation happening at the subway station with armed men everywhere killing anyone on sight, including this NPC who was very happy to help us out. May he rest in peace. But chapter 1 of part 1 is very fast and it ended once I turned on the train power once more, rode it a little ways, then parkoured over the now destroyed track and took out the final 3 enemies of the chapter. Once going through this door, then transfers over to chapter 2, and this is also the point of the game where you can begin to cheese trophies if you wish. However, I did not. At least, not right now. Chapter 2 consisted of us going down into the bank vault and foiling the robbers' plans. To progress the story though, all you needed to do was grab these detonators from one of the compartments down here, but I was unaware of what to do on my first playthrough, so I just ended up staring at some walls in hope of a better future to happen for myself. It did not, and I am now in misery. But eventually I just walked back the way I came, which was the correct way, blew up this door, and then we saw the scene with Max meeting Alex the informant that I mentioned. However, Alex got dropped by some dude from behind. Absolutely classless act of violence. You never hit a dude from behind, and I mean that sexually. Anyways, the chapter then ended with us running through the exit of the subway, and we made it outside. Eventually, after some super high technological text box cutscenes, chapter 3 then began. I also died immediately because, yes, this is fair. But the next few chapters are all about us chasing down these important guys that work for the leader of the organization that has taken out all of our friends. It's very rude, to be honest. But playing these chapters on first go is also quite difficult just because of how confusing the level direction can be. Most of the time, I ran around to every single room in the hotel and just could not figure out where to go. It was down bad. Also, these people took home base up inside of what I can guess is a hooker hotel. I don't know the technical term for such a place, seeing as I am not down like that, but I think Pokimane lives in one of these. Now, I'm not complaining, and I might have taken a double take or two here and there. It's a natural manly thing. Come on now, single life goes bad. Anyways, eventually I made it out of that hotel area place and landed in a bar that was right next to it. Very convenient if I do say so for myself. And I ran up on the guy we were chasing who seemed to be having a fun time himself. She was just tying her shoes, right? Right, guys? I feel like I'm being molested right now through my eyes. This is shameless.
Hey, yo!
So yeah, I killed them all. No mercy for the wicked. Ever heard of abstinence, you freaks? Once I did escape the sex soldiers, I ended up reaching the final room of this hotel, at least for the time being, and I just walked out of it because the door was wide open. I feel like I wasn't really invited, I'm not gonna lie. There was then some cutscenes, transitioning chapters, and the hotel ended up blowing up. I mean, I knew blowing was going on, but damn, this isn't what I expected. I also really struggled to shoot this propane tank that was needed to blow up a door to progress the story, and I would like to claim paid actor on that one. After another explosion, I then made it to the first parkour place of the entire game. And 2001 parkour was not good with it. I mean, Ninja Warrior didn't even exist yet, so they really had no clue what was humanly possible. And that's my only guess as to why Max's broad jump is shorter than my flaccid wiener. Yes, I failed. But I made it on the third try, took out a few more enemies, and we just crawled outside once more. There was then a little outdoor section which had us bribe this evil dude to get us into the evil people's laundry room. I guess you could say we took out the dirty laundry. I'm gonna kill my... Oh my god! I'm joking, but we did end up finally running into the guy that we were after, being named Vinnie Gongnetti, who I swear has the same name as the lasagna I ordered at the Italian place I went to with your sister last night. But he got shot and ran away in pain, with us left to chase after him and his blood trail, introducing us to another parkour part, and this one consisted of high beaming instead of jumping. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever a game is ported through 3 different consoles, the joystick movement just diminishes each and every time at an exponential rate, to the point where you can't even move forward pushing straight down. I mean, just look at the PS2 controller compared to the PS5 controller. This is like uncircumcised to circumcised, let's be real here. What's even more tragic though is that Vinnie jumped onto a train like he's straight out of the fucking Matrix and landed perfectly. Now, if you'll remember, I couldn't even jump a 2-foot gap before, so I again fell to my death numerous times. I actually ended up crying here, I'm not gonna lie. And I was forced to Google how the hell you do this jump because it just didn't seem possible. Turns out it is possible, although not with normal jumping means. You instead have to dodge roll forward, which gives you more momentum than possible according to Newton's laws. And once you reach the threshold, you just get sent to the next chapter. GG, Remedy, you crack addicts. But that parkour chapter transitioned right into another parkour chapter after, although this time it just had a few jumps and it wasn't bad in comparison. I also do think I have a trauma response to parkour, however, so I might be at a disadvantage. But after that, all we had to do was just chase down Vinnie once more, fighting his goons on the way, and once you do reach his fight, it's quite lackluster. This game has a few boss fights, but most aren't really boss fights that you would typically see in a sense of style, and basically every combat encounter looks and feels the same. But once I did kill him, it then gave us a text box cutscene like usual, and Max leaves him with a cold one-liner.
Your rights will be ready at your funeral.
But no gunshot was played at the end, so realistically he could have done something wild, like throwing him in a basement and starving him. That's just me though. Anyways, the remainder of part 1 to this game was kind of boring. It just had us fighting a lot through some confusing as hell rooms until reaching this ritual satanic thing that was going on. It's also being led by this guy we were after, being named Lapino, and I swear I know a stripper named that. But the fight sequence leading up to the final boss fight of this part just had men in all black looking like the MIB drop in over and over. It got very bland fast, like dating a girl who puts Bible verses in her Instagram bio. But after all the enemies were taken out, Lapino reveals himself to us, and he looks like the most average divorced white dude living in the panhandle of Florida. So I killed him. Probably put him out of his misery, to be honest. But then the part 1 trophy popped and we moved on to part 2. Part 1 of this game, by the way, is the longest, which is unfortunate. Anyways, part 2 of the story is kinda meh. It's only 5 chapters, which is 50% less than part 1, just for you nerds out there who wanna know. But the most difficult part is actually the prologue nightmare to it. You have to do a ton of parkour and puzzles with babies and women screaming the entire time. It's great. I actually took off my headset at this point because I just couldn't stand the damn baby sound that got repeated over and over and over. I almost started to believe that they were trying to brainwash me or something with this ritual-ass experience. Pain is the least of what I feel right now. However, once I finally made it out of that literal nightmare, I ended up in the real world as you would expect, and I performed a leap dodge to the side, killing 2 people during it, which then popped me a trophy for doing that because it was a trophy. God, I'm so good at explaining things. Jesus, use code PLATINUM for 10% off at GamerSubs to become a god gamer like me. Anyways, the game then led us back to the bar from earlier, so we basically just did a giant circle. Either that or those reused assets were used more than my ex-girlfriend was at that frat house. But speaking of used things, they also gave me nothing but a sex toy as a weapon, and I found that very rude. Eventually though, I did get given a sniper, and I was trying my best to get this trophy from 10 kills in a row with the sniper without missing. Turns out having bad aim makes this a bit of a test, and I did not get it first try. But I did get used to sniping because I did it for such a long time. And once I finally nailed my 10th guy with a sniper, the trophy then popped and I immediately threw the gun away to never be used again. My god, that shit is awful. And I know at the beginning of this part I said the nightmare was the most hard section, but I actually want to change that claim because this chapter had us in a burning down restaurant, and if you don't know what way to go about it, you will literally get lost and just burn to death over and over and over. I did also end up using the invulnerability cheat at this point, but I was still unable to find my way through the place, and that is honestly sad. Cheating and losing is just crazy. Shout out Tom Brady. However, again, with a Google search, I found the path, and I did it pretty easily despite pissing and shitting my pants in the process of doing so. That also led down into a sewer, and the smell of the place resembles that of your mother's coochie. Call a doctor is all I'm gonna say. The ending of this part then had us chasing down these 3 groups of men who wanted to kill us, but more than the average goon. So I did kill them, and then on the way out, we got cornered by like 30 people. Max Payne then gave himself up. What a pussy, but here's the part's trophy anyways. So now it's part 3 of the game, which is the final one, and its main goal had us chasing after this lady who is the leader of the organization that, as we all know, killed Max's family from the intro. And I don't want to explain the entire thing because it's basically just running around shooting people. I mean, that's fun, don't get me wrong, but if I want to experience that, I just go to Detroit. Got a lot of that going on already. So the final chapter had us scaling this big ass corporate building until reaching the top, and you had to shoot this radio tower's wires off of it to make it fall down onto the helicopter she was trying to escape in. You could say she failed to take the inches of pain we were laying into her, but once shooting down the tower, it just crashes in the helicopter, and you end up with Max again where he was in the intro, just mogging the camera like the Chad he is. Also, here's that part 3 trophy from finishing the story. So now it's time for stages 3 and 4, which are to beat the games, other difficulty modes, and the speedrun. And I first tried to do the speedrun because I didn't think it would be hard considering the game isn't that long, but you had to do it in under 56 minutes, which is fucking insane. It took me naturally about 5 hours to finish it, and I was just not even close. So I quit at the ending of the run and did the trophy Feel the Pain instead from beating the hard-boiled mode. This isn't the hardest difficulty, but it is harder than Fugitive. So I just replayed the entire thing. Some cheats were used, I won't lie, but I did do an entire playthrough, so in my mind it evens it out. And here's that trophy once I finished with it. I then did stage 5 after, which was to do the hardest difficulty of the game, called Dead on Arrival. And again, I used invulnerability and it made it very simple. But I did do another full run because I'm stupid. However, once finishing that final chapter, you do get sent to an extras room which has 16 more enemies come at you at once, and you have to kill all of them to get the trophy, which is kind of odd. But you can also use this to farm trophies, which I did do, and I got one from doing a quad kill with a grenade. And then I did finish the mode off with that trophy popping. But I wasn't quite done here because I had one more kill trophy in the game from getting 10 kills in a single use of slow motion aim or whatever they called it, which turns out to be very hard because if you reload, it turns it off. So it actually took me quite a few tries to get the 10 kill piece here, but I found a good method being to damage enemies a little bit beforehand and then go for the kills since they would be closer to one shot. But it just takes a few tries, and here it is once I did do it. The only trophy remaining is to now finish the New York minute mode speedrun and beat the game in under 56 minutes. Now I tried this again without cheating because I wanted to see if I actually could do it, and I kid you not, I played the entire thing through, finishing at 57 minutes and 1 second. I was devastated, I'm not gonna lie. So I decided to use that cheese method that I could have been using this entire time to cut out playthroughs, but it's done by just going to chapter 2, like I said, off of a new game in whatever mode you want the trophy for, then quitting the menu and using the cheat to unlock all of the levels, and I would input it a few times just to be safe. You then load up the final level of the game and it should transfer over whatever mode you were just in. For me, it was the New York minute, so my time to completion was only like 2 minutes from the first chapter. Play it through once more and the trophy then popped finally. So that was the Max Payne Platinum Trophy experience, and yes, I do know that there isn't a platinum, but you can suck my nuts if you want to be that technical about it. In fact, go outside for Christ's sake, it's a game. But rating Max Payne out of 10, I'll just give it a 5. I bet this game absolutely slapped in 2001, but it's 2025 now. Godspeed, Remedy Entertainment. You can also suck my nuts for Alan Wake 2.